Got blood all over my hands, in my eyes, on the strings. It's pouring out all over all my favorite things. A guilty heart is beating faster every time I try to sing.
You've recently released your new album.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pronounce it?
Devour.
Devour.
Yeah.
How's it been received?
So far, so good. It's been pretty amazing response to the record. It's always strange to me because every time you go in to write a new, when I go in to write a new record, I'm always afraid a little bit that no one will either care or know what I'm trying to get at, and so whenever a new record comes out, I'm assuming people won't get it.
Okay.
And maybe that's just like self-preservation or something, but ultimately when people do get it and respond favorably, it's always a little like a bit of a shock.
Really?
So, yeah, so it's been great. There were some milestones that we hit on this very first week of the record that were new for me, and people have been resoundingly positive, and it's been great to start touring. This tour just started about last week.
Okay, that's
So,
good. Because you say you want people to get the album. Is it that you want them to get like what it's about, like the lyrics?
Yeah, understand it, I should say, not
Okay.
get it. Get it is just buying it, but...
No, I thought maybe getting the music in a certain way. But...
Oh, I think the music's pretty straightforward, and ultimately I'm not, there's a couple little things that I'm doing differently musically, but it's generally a pretty standard paradigm that I'm working in.
Yeah.
Lyrically though, it's more of what I'm driving at, and that I think when people get that, I'm excited and kind of blown away by that response.
Because I've heard the album is about like the hunger of Americans.
Kind of, it's like the hunger of it's inherent, I guess, in all human beings. It's that sort of ferocious appetite, but I think it's even more prevalent in Americans.
Why do you think it's more prevalent in Americans?
I actually have thought about this, and I think it's more prevalent in Americans because they're essentially descendants of people who had the audacity, in a good and sometimes bad way, to leave where they're from in search of something better. And I think that is, once that goes down a few generations and you're settled into a culture, you start to see how that's affected.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a great-grandfather or a great-great-grandfather who was kind of this pirate, or it's kind of a crazy idea to uproot your family or decide to go someplace new and just start a fresh thing somewhere you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
I think that once that sort of filters down a few generations, you start to see how it's still hardwired into those kind of people.
Yeah.
But it.
You think it's their DNA or their culture?
I think it's both. I'm not really sure because I'm not a scientist, but I think that it has something to do with both. Yeah. It's I think it's why people like Walter White in that Breaking Bad show, or Tony Soprano, they've become such big heroes to Americans, and they're really conflicted and pretty dark characters.
Yeah.
And I think that people really identify with them because a lot of it has to do with that insatiable hunger.
You say there's not a God damn it, I could use a little faith to keep them crawling right out of my skin. I think it's had enough staying up, blowing tombstone powder with the broken-hearted liars again.
Well, that's what I do think that there is a positive. It's not just a negative connotation. I think that ambition can be a great thing. It's what lands people on the moon, and it's what hopefully opens peace talks and things like that. You want to, ambition is what drives lots of things, but it also fills the ocean with trash and causes people to be impoverished, and it causes a class of underprivileged people and so on. But so I think that for me, what I try to do is boil down where I came from and how that hunger kind of affected my generation of people, and then the middle of the record is kind of how that specifically affects the relationships that you have on a personal level, and how that crazy ambition or that appetite.
How does that reflect on a personal level?
Well, I just think it's hard to maintain positive relationships with people when your ambition is always kind of roaring. You know, when you're like, oh, I want to form a business, or I want to, you know, go after my career, or all the things that people, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard to keep that in balance with someone that you love or care about, or your children, or whatever. You know, it's a hard thing to keep all that stuff floating and be a good person. I think sometimes your ambition can get the best of you.
Do you think that the ambition that you had ever got the best of you?
Definitely.
Because like, I mean, I think that ambition is like very critical in order to get success, and you're a very successful musician now. Have you?
I don't know if I'm very successful. I mean,
Well, you're playing like one of the most beautiful venues we have in Amsterdam. So.
yeah, I am fortunate, and
But I think success always has its price.
it does. And I think that, you know, the odd thing is, like, for instance, tonight it's Paradiso. It's a beautiful venue, and the show's sold out. And so I think the problem with our business, the music business or whatever, is you think like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what do I do now? Do I go up another size venue, or do you do 2 nights?
Do you want to?
Yeah, in theory, yeah, but again, like, that's the balance. You have to figure out, like,
exactly.
how to be happy with what you've accomplished, and then also how to keep going forward so that you challenge yourself and you challenge the audience. It's this weird sort of thing that you try to keep balanced. Yeah, it is difficult.
But are you happy with what you've accomplished now?
Yeah.
Do you think if it stays at this point, would you be satisfied?
Yeah, I think so. But again, the way that you start to amass people, it's a crazy thing to say, I'm gonna get up on stage and you come see me, watch me. That's a crazy person's sort of delusion to say, like, that's what you want to do with your life.
Oh, I think I've got enough on the records, feel like yearbook pictures. Just find this, but I can't remember where I've been. So I'm sharpening my pen, shooting the ink into my skin. Baby, here's where we begin.
Right. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the interview. It was
Thanks.
fun.